How about a beginner eyebrow lesson? My name is Chelsea Sutter. I'm a professional makeup artist who breaks down makeup for beginners. And today I'm going to show you how to fill in your eyebrows using one brush and an eyeshadow. This is the Etch Brush. It's got a really nice flat end and it's pretty thin, but it's got some body to it, which is great for the brows. And then it's double-sided, and this is more of our dome flat end. So this is going to be really great when we have to do more smaller details. I'm going to try this shade Oak. When I have color in my hair, even though this is my natural and it's really dark, so you're kind of like, whoa, that's really light. I kind of have to find a happy medium. If I need to grab for a second color that's a little darker, I'll show you that in the video. Start with a tiny amount of makeup, just one little dab, okay? Tap off any excess. Go with maybe a smaller brush and go to this little notch in your nose. Find the outside corner of your eye, and you're just going to gently slide up and just put a little bit of a line. If you already have makeup on like myself, you're going to be really gentle with this because you don't want to disturb the work you've already done. If you're new to eyebrows, do this as a lesson. You're not going to walk outside with these brows. They're going to look a little scary until you can kind of pull them back and get the muscle memory needed to fill in your brows. Okay, your next measurement is the same part of the nose. Then you want to go to where the iris and pupil meet, so the color of your eye and then the black in the middle, and you're going to slide up and you're going to turn your face into the brow because now we're on a slope. We're changing planes, and that is the highest point of your brow. That does not mean I'm going to take it this high. I just got to kind of get it on the skin so I know the angles that I'm working with. Okay, your third and final measurement for right now, same part of the nose. We're going to do the outside corner of the eye, slide out. When you kind of get to the temple area, it's that final slope. Again, you want to work with your tools. You want to move your face, or you could end up with your brows all the way out here or too high, too low. So you want to work with the shape of your face. Okay, before we move on to the next step, I get this question a lot, and I think it's more of questioning the technique than necessarily a question. Like, okay, that's all well and good. You have eyebrows. You pretty much have that shape. That's not going to work for me. It is, because you're working with your own nose and your own eyes. So the measurements are going to match up when you are doing that. This is just meant for you to follow along. Your brows should not look like mine unless for some reason our eyes and nose are very similar in the placement and shape and size. If you have another brush around, preferably really close to size and thickness, because like you don't want to grab something like this. This is where you can sort of match up your next measurements. The point A to point B is the start of your brow to the arch. So it's the body of the brow. It's the brow it's the part that has the most going on, the most hairs, the most volume. It's the thickest part, and they should be two parallel lines. So usually to be able to measure up, you already know where you're starting, you already know where you're ending, but to kind of give you a good idea of where you want to go, you can kind of take a brush, kind of stick right on those hairs if you have them, and you can almost use it, and again, turn it as a way to help you get like that straight line that's not totally straight because there's an angle, but it kind of helps as a guide if you need it, right? And determining on how thick your brows are is how far apart your parallel lines are. The closer they are together, the thinner your brow will be. So we can do the same thing, kind of match up here, make it maybe like a little thinner at first, again, turn. Look at that. Isn't that crazy easy? We're working with our tools, not against them. But working with them will kind of give you what you need. And then once you know where your two lines are, you can just kind of get in there and you can add more product as needed. But really, we're just trying to map out these brows. Okay, so once you have your railroad tracks, that's a really good way to think of parallel lines because they're always parallel, even if the train turns, right? They're still equal distance apart, and you've determined how thick you want them to be or how thin you want them to be. This is where we get into what I call the ice cream cone. It's when we connect our arch to the end of the brow, so point B to C, and I think of it as an ice cream cone. The widest part is going to be in the arch because we just established how wide or thin our brows are, so it still should be that same width apart, but then remember, it comes to a point. So again, you can kind of use your other brush as a guide. Let me get in a little closer for you. Look at that. And then if you want to, again, you can always make it a little thinner because once you get those lines, you can work with them. Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna come back a little more zoomed in so we can finesse the actual shape. So we've been using this more circular side. I'm actually gonna switch to the straighter side, and I'm gonna make sure I evenly pick up the product. So just make sure it's going in straight. It's totally on both sides in the sense that I went in the center as opposed to pressing on one side versus another. So this is where, if you can see, I kind of have a little bit of a bald spot right here. I kind of want to be able to get in there straight, stamp in the product, and just sort of flick it up to dissolve or fizzle out the color so it's not too harsh. When we get here, you can kind of see that we don't have a very established arch. This is where you kind of want to go a little bit ahead of it, decide how you want it to curve down. It can be really pointed, it can be round, it can kind of taper. And then you want to just gently get rid of the line that's on the skin because that has nothing to do with the brows. Finesse and fill in the skin. That's why I also like to do it over top of my makeup so it has something to stick to. And then I'm kind of rubbing away the tail for a second just to get rid of that line that did not fit in. And I'm going to sort of stamp this. Wow, look how beautiful that is. And then I'm just gonna flick a little bit in the front so it feels a little fuller there. And then you have this really beautiful soft brow. Now, I can see a bit of a disconnect. This is all skin. There's no hair there anymore for me. This is when I said I might have to grab for a darker shadow so it can really mimic my actual hair color. So I'm gonna do that right now. So this is the shade I've been using. This is Oak. Now I'm gonna go in with a little bit of Trust. I'm still gonna use that flatter end. I'm gonna tap off any excess. And I'm really just gonna tap this in. Let's zoom in a little bit. Oh my goodness, that is much better. If you don't have as much hair as I do, it's so important to use more than one color because our brows are not just one shade. And also you might want to mess with the medium a little bit. So while I'm using these dry, you could grab some setting spray, some water. You could either spray the back of your hand, mix in a little bit of shadow, just get your brush wet, mix in it, but that would be more intermediate advanced and not as much beginner, but it's a really good way to still use what you've got without having to go run out and grab a pomade or grab a liner or grab a pencil that you kind of lose control. The best part about using a brush as a beginner is it's only going to go as far as the amount of product on the brush. So the less product, the more control you have because it's going to run out, and then you can keep finessing and building upon a really beautiful brow and not lose control. And then my hope would be is that you would get so comfortable with this, you would just naturally see where your brow should start, arch, and end, that you no longer have to make the lines, and then you're able to freehand and get that really beautiful brow within seconds. This took me like 30 seconds to fill in this side. I just switched to that darker color. And boom, you've got this really beautiful brow with the eyeshadow. It's also perfect for winter because we're always kind of going for more of that matte finish. It's a little harder to achieve dewy skin in the winter, and you're set up for success. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment box.